According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 19.7 million children, that's more than 1 in 4, live without a father in the home, the effects of which are pertinent to moms and daughters. Welcome to Mother-Daughter Connections, the show dedicated to educating, encouraging, and equipping moms to build lasting, meaningful connections with their daughters. I'm your host and mother-daughter relationship personal trainer, Dr. Deering. My heart is to be of help to you. I believe that your relationship with your mom is the foundation for your future success, personally, parentally, and professionally. Now remember, even though I'm a licensed psychologist, I'm not your shrink on this show. I am, however, here to share my opinions and those of my guests. If you have concerns about your mental health, please seek services from a mental health provider in your local area. Now join me as we pause to consider today's topic. Has your daughter stopped talking to you the way she used to? Well, that could be for any number of reasons. Maybe something was said or not said, or maybe something was done or not done, or maybe you both just got your wires crossed. Whatever the reason, there are definite research-based principles that you can use to get your daughter talking to you again. And I've put those principles in my Get Your Daughter Talking Now online course. It's a self-paced, 3-module step-by-step program that you can use to fix the lines of communication between you and your daughter, regardless of her age. Just go to www.getyourdaughtertalkingnow.com to start rebuilding your relationship today. And if you've already purchased the program, awesome. Just make sure that you share the link with your mom friends so that they can get in on the healing. The link again is www.getyourdaughtertalkingnow.com. Dr. Deering here. I just wanted to jump on before we get started just to let you know that in the spirit of a lot of the holidays regarding celebration of parents, moms and dads, I just wanted to share with you a past episode I had done on the topic. It was done earlier on in the life of this podcast. So if I sound a little stiff, that's because I was new into this podcasting stuff. But still, the stuff that I share is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope you'll be encouraged by it. So let's hop into this episode. According to the 2016 Pew Foundation's findings and the 2017 U.S. Census, there is an epidemic with regards to the increasing prevalence of dads who are absent in the lives of their children, leaving 1 in 4 moms with the task of raising children under the age of 18 all by themselves, leaving moms having to spend nearly 300% more hours working outside the home to meet financial needs, leaving moms being more stressed, and daughters experiencing anxiety and depression almost 3 times more often than boys. There's something to be said for the impact that the father figure can have on the life of a daughter. You know, I often think how Father's Day is not as hyped up and celebrated as Mother's Day. I'm not sure if that's because it's thought that since a man doesn't physically carry a baby within him for 8 to 9 months, he's not as important. Or if that's because of the perception that dads are not as nurturing by nature. Regardless, the research shows that a dad's presence balances out that of a mom's. Now, if you can allow me a bit of latitude just to generalize a tad, to think metaphorically and biologically for a moment. Moms nest, nourish, and nurture. Everything's intertwined, kind of spaghetti-like. And dads prepare, provide, and protect. Tends to be more linearly inclined, compartmentalized in focus and attention. Now, one is not better than the other. They are both necessary in influencing the development of a daughter. Because of the way men, dads, are wired, they have a unique and necessary way of contributing to a daughter's sense of security, stability, and perspective that aids in the processing of their emotions. For instance, different from when I'm working with male clients, when I'm working and conducting therapy with moms and daughter clients, feelings surface and come pouring out more readily. Once those feelings have been released, though, it then becomes important to gather, sort through, assess, prioritize, and strategize how to approach those feelings. Now, men, dads, are more naturally wired to process through things like that, most of the time without addressing their feelings. It's a man's world view kind of thing. But that thing, that whole segmented approach, Not that women can't do these things, but for the most part, they are skills that need to be developed, and a dad can help with that, in addition to the influence that a mom brings to the life of a daughter. The flip side disadvantage for guys is that because they process this way, gather, sort through, assess, prioritize, and strategize how to approach those feelings, it can be hard for them to actually access their feelings, and thus they need the input and influence of a female perspective to learn and experience the softer side of the feeling realm. Remember, though everyone is different, some of these generalizations may resonate with your experience if you grew up with your father. For some of you, your father may have physically been present but emotionally and/or mentally absent when you were growing up, and because of that, you may have thought that he might as well have been an absent father altogether. Then there are some of you, like me, whose dad was not present at all. I know. It's hard. My father's absence was like a blessing and a curse all at the same time. The blessing was that he was not around to inflict any physical and emotional abuse on my mom or half-sister. The curse was that my mom struggled to make it on her own after she had escaped his domain. My mom was in survival mode. I know she tried her best to be both mom and dad to me, but it wasn't the same. A little girl needs her dad. For the longest time, especially with every school father-daughter related activity, I felt unseen, unheard, and unknown. My feelings were everywhere. I needed to process through them, but I didn't have a strong male presence, a father, to help steady me through that. I needed the presence of a present father. As I think about the numerous years I went through life without my biological father being present in my life, I must admit it was a huge sore spot for me, and, for a time, made me disinterested in the institution of marriage. Thank God for my BFF hubby. In the years that he has been a father to our daughters, I received a different kind of vicarious healing as I watch how selflessly he gives of his time, energy, and attention to them, and my heart is warmly filled. However, on this Father's Day, I want to recognize and give honor to those men who, beyond their own personal spheres, stepped up and stepped into my life at critical seasons of my life to be more than a male role model to me, but a father to me in my personal and professional life. You see, I believe that there are characteristics of a man that go beyond the financials and that filter into the fabric of the feminine psyche in positive ways that a daughter needs. With that said, these father benefits, FATHER, are worth mentioning alongside the manly angels whom I've been blessed to have in my life. A father provides a daughter with FATHER. F. He provides her with a framework for how she will come across to the opposite sex. Now, while a mother gives her daughter a view of her daughter's sense of self as a female reference point, a father gives his daughter a different view of how her femaleness comes across to an outsider, i.e. male person, which in turn feeds into how a daughter may respond to each respective gender. Mr. James Jimmy Cosgrove. He had this big, mad scientist head of hair that was all white. He was my softball coach, and he showed me a framework for life through sports. And he helped me see that there were more productive ways to channel my emotions into my physical abilities so that I could feel good about myself in the presence of guys. A father provides his daughter with acceptance. Now, while a father's framework gives the foundation for a daughter's sense of external acceptance, especially with regards to peers, without a dad's acceptance, a daughter will feel deficient internally and lacking in ability to feel settled. The lack of settledness will then morph into some form of overcompensation, sometimes maybe in productive ways, but according to the National Fatherhood Initiative, most of the time it's in unproductive ways. Michael Ragusa, my high school English teacher and the boys' basketball coach. I'll never forget, I was sitting at my desk, first year in high school, quietly doing my work, and he called me up to his desk. and he engaged me in conversation. I remember it was like yesterday. He noticed me. He accepted me. And he asked me, "Do you have a dad?" And when I said no, it didn't faze him. It didn't make a difference. I didn't feel ashamed. A few days later, he asked me if I wanted to be the boys' basketball manager, which basically meant I would hand them towels during the games and take stats on the sidelines. But Mr. Ragusa, he accepted me. He saw me and was the first person who actually ever asked me, did I have a dad? His noticing me and accepting me was pivotal in my life at that point in time, and I'm forever grateful. T. A father provides his daughter with time. From an outsider perspective, the time that a father spends with his daughter is affirming and foundational to her sense of worth, because he's doing this in the midst of his busy life outside the home. Now, for me, while I was at Brown University, Melvin Lee was a campus minister who spent a lot of time with me as I went through the trenches of the collegiate life. I mean, I can remember calling, it's like, "Melvin, what do I do?" Or, "Melvin, I got this problem." Or, "Melvin, is your wife home? I really need to talk." Kind of thing. He was an excellent husband to his wife and father to his children, but he still made time to be available to help me problem solve through situations and give me sage guidance at a moment's notice. H. A father provides his daughter with a safe haven that balances out his daughter's interactions with her mom, from whom she's endeavoring to separate identity-wise. Such moments of separations and differences can erupt into explosions and tensions at times between a mother and a daughter. That is why, as a daughter enters her middle school and teen years, that foundation of time will be a consistent doorway through which she knows she can enter into a different space, a haven with her dad. Now for me, I had two different kinds of safe havens. One was when I was at Brown. Dean Barrett Hazeltine, he was very important as a safe haven for me in just my identity as an intellectual. I took my first, albeit it was in my senior year, engineering class, and I did well, and I got an A. This was a far cry from my freshman year engineering class, which did much to wreak havoc on my academic confidence. And it actually, when I decided not to do engineering, it drove a wedge between me and my mom over my shaky career goals. But Dean Hazeltine was the first professor at Brown who actually complimented my science acumen and noted my outside-the-box kind of thinking. And that was really important for me to know at that particular time in my senior year as I was launching out into the world. E. Eyes. A father's eyes speak volumes to a daughter. A father's eyes hold her potential view of herself and her possibilities, and all the more because he's out there in the male-influenced world systems, and he brings a perspective to her current state of life. So, for his eyes to see her in her current state and future potential speaks a hope and assurance into her heart like none other. Such were and still are the eyes of Antonio, or as I call him, Tony Parham, a tech exec extraordinaire, who took me in and gave me a place to stay twice when I was on the verge of being homeless. He was always there, and he always saw and still sees all things as possible for me. He's a big guy, and in his 6'4" frame, his eyes never and have never looked down on my 5'6" stature in pity or disappointment. Instead, his eyes have always lifted up my head in expectation of greatness and possibility for myself. R. Respect. A father provides a daughter with a window on respect. The way a father treats the first woman in his daughter's life, her mom, will speak volumes of how he sees, views, and feels about his daughter. A father's message of respect gives a daughter an inner consistency that validates what she can and ought to expect from any future male person in her life. For example, if a father disrespects his daughter's mom, but dotes on the daughter, then the daughter learns that certain rules apply to others, but not to her. If the dad dotes on his daughter's mom, but disrespects the daughter, then that underscores within her psyche a sense of her not being worthy of respectful treatment. During and after my doctoral studies, the late Dr. Ken Roy respected me as a person and a person of color in my field, and what I brought to the table in professional circles. He valued and validated my family life and my motherhood to my daughters, and treated my BFF hubby with respect. The way Dr. Roy treated me with respect supported me holistically in so many ways and helped me maintain respect for myself as I navigated my professional and personal life. To the Jimmy Cosgroves, Mike Raguses, Melvin Lees, Hazeltines and Mars, Tony Parhams, and Ken Roys out there, thank you for being a framework, acceptor, time giver, haven, eyes, and respect. A father. That's what we, the fatherless daughters, need every day. Now, if you've gained any insight from today's episode or any past episodes of this podcast, could you do me a favor? Could you just go to the review section of the podcast platform that you're listening to, like Spotify or Apple iTunes, and click the 5 stars real quickly and just jot a note in the comments section. I would greatly appreciate it. I read all of the comments. And if you're part of my email community, which you can join by just emailing me at dr.deering@curativeconnections.com. That's dr.deering@curativeconnections.com. You'll be added to my email list and become part of my email community. But just leave a quick review. What that does is it actually helps the algorithm get the word out to more moms. So help another mom discover this podcast. I'd greatly appreciate it. Until next time, be encouraged. Healthy mother-daughter relationships are possible. They just take one curative connection at a time. I'll see you next week. You've been listening to Mother-Daughter Connections with me, your host and mother-daughter relationship personal trainer, Dr. Michelle Deering. Thanks so much for joining me today. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Share this episode with a friend so they don't miss an episode. And download the resource in the show notes. Until next time, remember to pause to consider how you can connect intentionally so you can improve relationally with your daughter.